Well, we knew the Chargers had to cut someone big in order to become compliant with the NFL cap. This is their move. Welcome everybody to JJ9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jared Gare 9, representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about this team behind me right here and what they just did, because the breaking news that just came out of Los Angeles, wide receiver Mike Williams is gone. He has been released by the Los Angeles Chargers. He's been with the team since 2017, ends his Charger career with 309 catches, 4,806 yards, and 31 touchdowns. Going to go down as one of the top 10 wide receivers in Charger history for sure. Can't put him top 5. Obviously, Lance Allworth, Charlie Joyner, Keenan Allen, Wes Chandler, John Jefferson, Vincent Jackson. I'd put all those guys ahead of him. And then, of course, Gary Garrison and Anthony Miller can make a case for being above Mike Williams. But Mike Williams is definitely a top 10 receiver all time in Chargers history. Had a solid career with the Chargers, but just couldn't stay healthy. Hasn't played a full season since 2018. Only played in 3 games last year after tearing his ACL early in the season against the Minnesota Vikings. This is a move that a lot of people saw coming. The Chargers had some of the least cap space in football. They were one of the least flexible teams entering the 2024 season alongside Miami and Buffalo. This move gets them under the cap. We talked about potentially them trading Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, but Mike Williams is gone, and now the Chargers are under the cap space. It saves $20 million in cap space. The Chargers still want to bring him back, but it's going to be tough because I don't think they're going to be able to pay him what he could be potentially worth on the open market, especially in a year like this where the wide receiver free agents are not very strong. Mike Williams, assuming Calvin Ridley comes back to Jacksonville, immediately becomes hands down the number 1 free agent wide receiver on the board, and best of all, for a lot of these teams, doesn't count against the compensatory pick formula. Remember, compensatory pick formula, it only matters if that player is a free agent because their contract ran out. If the team cuts him, it doesn't count against the compensatory pick formula whatsoever. So teams can sign him and just have to pay him a salary, and it doesn't impact the compensatory pick whatsoever for what they could potentially get in 2025 or 2026. Now, having said that, the big talk with Mike Williams, where is he going to wind up? What team could potentially be in on Mike Williams? There's going to be a massive bidding war, I think, for his services. There's a lot of teams that need wide receiver help that could be in on Mike Williams. I've got 3 teams in particular that I want to take a look at where Mike Williams could potentially wind up. Starting off with another team in the AFC West, it's going to make Charger fans absolutely shiver. They're going to hate it. But I could see the Kansas City Chiefs being in on Mike Williams. They have not signed any wide receivers yet. They cut Valdez-Scantling. The Chiefs desperately need a wide receiver. We all know that. Kansas City had one of the weakest wide receiving units in football last year. Outside of Rashee Rice, there really wasn't anyone to write home about. Maybe Justin Watson every now and then, but outside of Rice, it's clear that Mahomes needs weapons. The Chiefs need weapons at wide receiver. He thought maybe they'd be in on Mike Evans, but he goes back to Tampa Bay. Chiefs, it's a deep wide receiver class, but they're going to have pick number 32, so they might not be able to get one of those top-end receivers without trading up or giving up a lot to do it. You figure that Kansas City could be in on Mike Williams, especially because they now have the money. Patrick Mahomes restructured his deal, $21 million freed up, and you're going to have even more money freed up if they trade away L'Jarius Sneed. There's talks about the Tennessee Titans being in on Sneed. I don't know if he comes back to Kansas City necessarily, but the Chiefs have money to work with now, and they could use that money to sign a premier wide receiver. You pair up Patrick Mahomes with Mike Williams and Rashee Rice, all of a sudden, you're cooking. You're cooking with something in Kansas City. Not that Mahomes needs a lot of help after what he did last season. The other team I think could be in on him, I think this is going to be the team that offers him the most money when all is said and done. I don't know if he goes there, but I think this will be the team that's the most aggressive in pursuing him, is the New England Patriots. The Pats are in on Calvin Ridley, but he's probably going back to Jacksonville. Obviously, if the Pats do sign Calvin Ridley, forget everything I just said about Mike Williams, and Mike Williams will not be going to New England. But if you look at the cap space, the Patriots have $57 million in cap space. It's the 3rd most in football. The Pats need a ton of help at wide receiver. They haven't signed anyone yet. They brought back Kendrick Bourne. They released Devontae Parker. And you also have to figure Juju Smith-Schuster carries a $10 million cap hit in 2025. You got to be thinking ahead to 2025. Juju, $10 million cap hit, only $2.6 million in dead cap space if you cut him before the start of the 2025 league year. So the Patriots can save $8 million in cap space in 2025 by cutting Juju. You have to figure that barring a Pittsburgh-like resurgence, that he's not on the team after next season. It just wouldn't be fiscally responsible. It wouldn't make a whole lot of financial sense if Juju is a Patriot past the 2024 season. So you could sign Mike Williams, make it a deal where the second year gets a lot of money, gets the money that Juju would have been otherwise getting, and it's really no harm done whatsoever. I could see the Pats being in on Mike Williams, especially because, aside from the fact that you have a very bad wide receiving unit, you need to surround your quarterback with weapons. I don't know who the quarterback's going to be in New England. Probably Jaden Daniels. They have the 3rd overall pick. You have to figure Caleb Williams goes 1 to Chicago. Drake May goes 2 to Washington. Jaden Daniels goes 3 to New England. Or maybe Drake May goes number 3 to New England. Either way, you're going to have a rookie quarterback. You don't want to put him in a situation like the Carolina Panthers with Bryce Young, where he had nothing to work with whatsoever at the wide receiver position. Mike Williams, give him a bona fide wide receiver 1 if he can stay healthy. That adds a lot of versatility to this New England offense, and that helps you out a ton. The other team that I think could be in on him, going in the NFC, but staying on the west side, I'm going to say the Arizona Cardinals make a lot of sense for Mike Williams. Number one, they have the cap space. $41 million in cap space as of this recording. That's the 8th most in football. They easily have the money to pay Mike Williams. On top of that, wide receiving unit, very, very weak, especially because Hollywood Brown is a free agent. He might not be coming back to the desert. The Cardinals need wide receivers badly. For some perspective, the only wide receiver currently on the roster, currently under contract, with 400-plus yards receiving last year was Michael Wilson. That's it. That's all you got. Now, granted, Trey McBride had a phenomenal season at tight end, but he's a tight end. He's not a wide receiver. And there are some pieces that I do like that can step up every now and then. I think Greg Dortch is due for a breakout season, but the Cardinals need help at wide receiver badly. Now, you probably are going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. at pick number 4, barring anything crazy, unless a team leapfrogs Arizona to get MHJ. I'd be very surprised if Marvin Harrison Jr. is not a Cardinal next year. But you figure Marvin Harrison Jr., you get Mike Williams, Rondale Moore in the slot, you have Michael Wilson, you have Greg Dortch rounding out the unit. That's your 5 receiver. All of a sudden, that becomes a very solid group for Kyler Murray to work with on paper. That's one of the best units he's had in quite some time. Didn't have a whole lot to work with on the offensive side, but you figure if you have those 5 receivers, those starting 3, and you have Trey McBride at tight end, all of a sudden you have an offense that looks a bit dangerous on paper if Mike Williams can stay healthy, and the Cards have the cap space to do it, and obviously they have a quarterback in Kyler Murray that can get Mike Williams the ball, give him that option there. So Mike Williams, gone from the Chargers. Look at the Chiefs, look at the Patriots, look at the Cardinals in terms of possible free agent targets for his services. But what are your thoughts? Do you think the move makes sense for the Chargers to get rid of Mike Williams to get under the cap? Where do you think Mike Williams ends up? Do you think he has anything left in the tank after that torn ACL? Do you want Mike Williams on your team? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. That's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe, helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, Jaguar9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is Jaguar9 signing off, and as always, go Jags.